Carl and Brendan here from Games, Brains and Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for sure, and it's track by track time, covering one of Brendan's favourite albums in recent times. It is Zerfall by the band Finsterforst, the Black Forest metal act. Their fifth studio album released August 2nd, 2019 via Napalm Records, which surprised me because for some reason I only really remember Brendan going on about this in the last year or so, or maybe that's just how long it's been longer. And I was like, oh, I thought this came out more recent times, but it really didn't.
No, I mean, I've listened to it for a long time. I think it was only maybe a year or so ago that I had the opportunity to bring it up in a reaction video.
That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. It was I knew there was something there. But yes, it is a big album, but it is 5 tracks, technically 7, but we'll explain that part at the very end. So there's 5 tracks we got to cover here. And there's some long ones. There is one particularly that I fucking laughed my head at. So we're gonna get into it. And we begin with Woot. That's W-U-T. It is a really disconcerting start here as the jabbing guitar heaviness and squealing effect in the background can in no way prepare you for the sense of epic that comes with the vocals and heavier rhythm. It immediately leaves you wondering and being unsure of what you're actually going to be getting here, aside from the fact that it's likely to be quite big and epic, which it really is. Born from black metal, but with so much atmosphere that it becomes a little bit of a thing of beauty. The peaks, the valleys, the twists and turns, the unexpected melodic shifts, the crunching heaviness that exists overall. This is a stunner of a track, and in most circumstances would probably be the highlight of most records.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting when you first listen to this album because you go like, oh, that's a long start, and at 13 minutes, bloody hell. But end up being like one of the shorter ones.
Indeed.
But yeah, I mean, I remember well listening to this for the first time. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know anything about them. I didn't really understand probably a lot back then about what the notion of black forest metal, like, you know what I mean? I think these days I'm a bit more like aware, so I probably would have had a good stab at what it might sound like. I just think this band, like, they don't sort of do things by half. They throw a lot into it, and because of the length of the songs as well and the style, there's a lot of transitions and different things going on. They've got a ton of talent in terms of and difference, I suppose. It doesn't necessarily have to be talent, but difference in the band. They have multi-vocalists, everything like that. But it all kind of works and comes together to create, I think, like a band that sound like they're just perfectly in tune with each other. I mean, I was about to say there's like thousands of members, but I think it's like 9 or something like that, or 8, but not quite thousands.
Still a lot.
But, you know, look, I love it a lot. It's an epic song. It's got like sections of it that very much lean on the folk, sections that are much heavier. So many different styles of vocals, and they are different singers as well at different times. Lots of the things that we like in this style of music, you know, there's horns, there's woodwind instruments, but they don't really ever sacrifice what the core, I don't think, of the fact that we always bring it back to that black metal, hard hitting, you know, groove as well. There's a lot of that in there. So I also really, really enjoy the fact that it's all in German, in their native language, because I just think like it adds something else to it. It makes it feel a little bit more authentic as well. So yeah, it's a really, really strong start.
It is a very strong start, and try topping that, but along comes Zerfall, the title track. It's a challenge that this band seemed to relish, hitting the heavy button straight away and dropping a screaming guitar solo in the first 25 seconds of this track, which is hilarious. Yet it's just part of a bombastic track that somehow sounds bigger than anything else on this album. It is intense, but in a really listenable way. The undeniable talent of this band continue to transform black metal into something truly unforgettable. There's also a touch of folk right near the end for some added laughs. It's a wonderful track.
Yeah, it's you know, I go through phases with this band, but like for the most part, this is always my favorite song for the one that I end up going back to after flirting with another one for a while. You know?
Yes.
I think it's an example of being really, really strong songwriters and like being masters of how to compose a track well. because realistically, right, they throw a lot in a song. There's a lot
Yes.
going on,
It is
and
kitchen
that,
sink territory.
yeah, and that can go like a couple of different ways, really. But actually, like they tend to flow quite perfectly. I thought, for me anyway. The start is heavy, comes straight in as well with like riffs and drums, like you said, massively guitars, solos at the beginning, and then you start getting bits joining it, like horns join in, and deep chanting choirs doing all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. It's just very, very well put together, and for me, very inviting to listen to. I think like within 10 to 20 seconds of this song starting, it wouldn't matter how long it was, I would have found myself completely hooked and being like, oh wow, okay, what's happening here? I think it's got a huge chorus. It sounds massive. Lots of little additional folkish kind of melodies and little sounds appear at different points in it. Lots of vocal harmonizing again, some big orchestra sounds as well. We get what I believe is an accordion solo, but I'm not 100% on that, but at one point in it. Then we go back from that into heavy again. And like, it's a constant thing, but it also has a moment in this song, which is just I don't know what you got, like it's a millisecond really, which is as it's getting to the end. There's a bit where it's doing the chorus and it kind of plays, but then it just goes silent. Like, it's impossible to explain. It almost goes silent for a millisecond and then comes back in again with the big guitar, and then it just goes again. It's just that little moment that somebody sort of, in my head, I'm like, oh, just sitting in the studio, obviously not in English, doing this in German, and then just going like, in this massive song, this 10+ minute song or whatever it is, just going, oh, all we're going to do there is we're just going to stop for less than a second and then go again. Like with everything you've thrown at a song, somebody's got to put that bit in there as well. And it turns out for me to be the most memorable moment of the whole song, the moment when it stopped for less than a second. And I think that's genius. I think that's a masters of composition.
Yeah, they are an incredibly creative band, and that continues into Flute des Siens. And I like how each song starts with these chorus of choral vocals, very harmonizing. Yet, this beast of track has touches of more traditional metal layered throughout its folky heavy sound. Yet again, though, it is just one part of a bigger picture, as when the track goes for the throat, it does draw blood. However, unlike what we've heard so far, those choral vocals return at regular intervals here. It's a very creative track overall. And I'm still totally on board with this band, particularly as the clean singing is such a bigger part of things in this track.
Yeah. I said, like, I think, if you listen to this album, you've kind of got as far as this, you probably know what to expect now as songs come by. But I think for me,
you're invested.
Yeah. And I think, like, while I want more of what I've heard before, I also appreciate the fact that even within that, there's still moments of difference in the songs that come, and sometimes that's just using the same elements but in a different way. Like you said, some songs lean a bit more on that kind of choir vocaling, and then maybe others lean a bit more on the heavier vocals, and having enough tools, I guess, in your armory to be able to almost say, like, we can use all of these in every single song, but just use them in a different way. And that must be a wonderful position to be in as a band, really. It's another really, really strong song. I love the deep chanting choir vocals. I like the added folk. I think the verses, at least the initial verse leans quite heavily on the metal side with much more aggressive vocals and a strong drum and riff presence. It's one of those songs. It just kind of keeps like layers unwrapping themselves as you go further and further into it. We get another folk melody. I've started just calling everything an accordion by now because I was like, I don't know, fucking accordion. Let's go with that. It could be anything. There's like a nice little sort of melodic, like we're deep in the forest sort of atmospheric slowdown. We go back from that into the heavier sound, then there's some more choirs, and we go from that into something else. And it's like a pass the parcel game where, like, as it keeps going round and another layer keeps coming off, and it's just like, yeah. And I also really love that this one ends back on the exact same choir vocal line that it started with, so it does do a completely full circle. Yeah, I like it.
There we go. Yes, I was relying on you to really be the descriptive person in this, and you're not letting me down. Welton Brand, it isn't getting any less epic, and I've seen what comes next, so I'm going to try and keep this one short. This track is fucking egregiously grand. Love how heavy the riffs are, how integral to the sound the bass is, how hard the drums hit, and that's before I even mention the use of horns. Fucking A-star stuff. I also think this track has some of the harsher blackened moments overall too.
Yeah, pretty much the same as what I'm going to say. It's just another, 4 tracks in, and it's like the level of them all are like they're pretty much all just at the same bar, because I don't think they drop off from one to the other. It's not like, oh, those first two were amazing, and then we had that was a bit bland comparison. So it's actually trying to keep that consistent quality. Managing to keep it is pretty impressive too. But it's another massive sounding, multifaceted, layered song. It's got all the same stuff we've heard again, but using a different way. I think there's some nice, heavier, slower, really chunky sounding verse in, some great higher toned lead guitars that contrast with them. Chants again, choirs, big, cleanly sung choruses.
Yeah.
And it's the same on all of the songs, but like I think they just pointed out again, like sometimes when you listen to these, it almost feels like there's like 10 different singers, or at least 10 different styles, and they harmonize so well together, like the vocals. And keep in mind that all of this is with us not understanding a single, or sorry, very few words they say, like if not any at all. I think there might be the odd time I think I might have caught a word that I might have known in German, like nine. But that could also just be them saying something completely different. Although I do think I can sing this in my car, surprisingly enough. I wonder what I'm saying. But I was really enjoying it. It's got little folk melodies scattered about. It's another top song. It's another one at the same standard that I mean, when this was the first album I listened to there, so I wasn't expecting it then, but by now I am. It's the standard I expect from them. And then, as much as I was loving that, they hit the last 2 minutes of the song, and as expansive as it's been so far, they just throw everything times 2 at it, with speed drumming, more vocal harmonies, like 3 or 4 of them going against each other. All the horns and stuff start coming in, and it just turns into this absolutely phenomenal, grand, epic, slightly insane. Like, this is a lot, but wow, it's amazing end to another really good song.
And that's before we even get to the final track. Eki Homo, something like that. What the bloody hell are we doing? This is a 36+ minute track. I mean, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I listen to plenty of music that does stuff like this, but look at what already came before. That's the thing. Like, you've got long tracks and then you've got this. So I'm going to try and be as succinct as possible here, as there's a lot to talk about. First things first, this is epic, unsurprising, featuring haunting melodies, thick atmosphere, brash heaviness played at varying tempos, and so much more. But it is also a slow burn of a track, but doesn't really draw you in with its exceptional intro. It's fair to say that this is probably the most cinematic track of all, and certainly a creative giant within the metal sphere. However, I will be critical of it as far as kitchen sink stuff goes. There is an argument to be had that this could be trimmed here and there, maybe be a tighter 25-35 minutes. But I do acknowledge it's a weak argument, because Finsterforst throw everything into this track and it does work. The proof being that it doesn't really feel its runtime. I don't know how else to describe this track, save to say you have to have a ton of patience with it. But if you do, and you give it the investment, you will be rewarded for it.
I love that you said, like, oh, we could trim it down to a nice tight 25-30 minutes.
Right. Yes.
It's a mad thing to say. But yeah, look, I mean, it's huge, and this is, I don't know if this is something they always do. Actually, their most recent release, Genset, was a single song that is longer than this one, but they split it into 4 tracks, so it was like 4 singles. So I don't know if that was them almost acknowledging, going, yeah, right, might have gone too far with that one, but it is huge. A lot of what you've said is what I've said. I won't repeat everything I'm going to say, because it is similar as in a lot of the songs. It's epic, it's grand, it is very patient. They take a long time to let up to me, like, the atmosphere build, with very gentle notes, hush spoken word. They bring plenty of heavier moments. I also said that it feels cinematic, like a film score at times. Everything that they do is in this song. Of course it is, 37 minutes long. There's folk passages, heavier passages, big orchestral sections. And I guess the thing that they do in this one is, whereas in the other ones, even though the other songs can be like 13+ minutes, in a way, that's what you realize by this song, is that that's them compacting all those moments down. Whereas in here, they let them like stretch. So, a 30-second folk passage in Wood, for example, is a 2.5-minute folk passage in Echo Homo. realistically, I'm not being a fool. I love this band, but I've listened to this song less than everything else on the album because you don't
Yeah.
have a lot of time to stick 37 minutes worth on. My drive to work isn't 37 minutes, so, but I have listened to it. I listened to it again to do this, and it is really worth it. Like for
Yep.
that once every now and then, something epic. If you're on a particularly long journey or you just fancy sticking something on and it not randomly shuffling, you just want to listen to something all the way there. I think you could do a lot worse than this one.
Well put, well put. Yeah, it's still a huge album overall. Generally, one that's well worth the time. Still one of your favorite releases.
Yeah, I think it's not the only one because like of this style of music that I'd ever listened to at this point. But to me, it was the album I think like hit perfection within this style for me. Like there was just so much going on, and I can't like emphasize enough how important it was the German language within it, because I think like if this was sung in English, I don't think it would have the same impact, weirdly.
Yep.
And it feels like it's heavy, it's got folk elements obviously, but it's got when you say now, if you listen to this and then you say Black Forest metal,
Yeah.
I kind of go, oh, I get it. It makes sense to me now. Whereas beforehand, I'm like, oh, what's that going to sound? And it's like, you start hearing those choirs and the sounds of folk in the forest and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, look, I love it. I listen to Zerfall in particular, like not quite daily, but I would say like a couple times a week, pretty much every week without fail. I just get a little buzz for it, and I go, I just want to hear that little moment again. I make everybody I know listen to it.
Yep.
People that have no interest in metal whatsoever, you know how it is going, oh, just listen to this bit here.
Yep.
Like, what are you putting on? Oh, a 37-minute long song.
Yes. But everybody still listen to it.
Yeah. And don't talk over it. You must sit there quietly and listen.
Okay. Yeah, there were two more tracks though on this album. Do you want to mention them?
Yeah. So I mean,
We haven't
they
covered
are
them as a track by track.
Yeah, they are just the two shorter single versions of two of the longer songs in the album. So Fluch the Sen and Echo Homo. They come in both of them at around the 5-minute mark.
Yeah.
So they're not different to anything you hear in that song. They are a snippet of that song. Quite well cut and taken. Like it's not just first 5 minutes and then we stop. It's positioned out of the song to be like, so it feels like a song of its own. There's no secret what it is. They're called the short single version. I guess if you want some radio play or anything like that, you can't be sending the radio a 37-minute track.
That's it, literally. So that's why I didn't cover them. Right, 5 tracks. So we only choose one, the one top track. And I have a funny feeling that we're basically going to have the same one here. So I've chosen Zerfall. I think it's probably the best example of everything overall.
Yeah, and it's the same for me.
There you go. You know what you need to listen to. The whole album, obviously, but Zerfall nonetheless. It is Zerfall by Finsterforst. You got any thoughts and know what to do? Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It is gratefully appreciated. You can find us over at gbhbl.com, our full website where reviews, news and so much more goes up daily. We're also on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, at gbhbl. Just search for gbhbl and you will find us out there. We also have merchandise on sale. You can access the shop via the website.